For your blend shape problem, which I can see here, um, what happened that I can see just by showing these is you duplicated the character for the blend shape targets after you had already deformed him, and that is to say that you use the rig to move him. So when you skin a character, the skin cluster, skinning, that's a deformer, and the blend shape is also a deformer. And so your the point is you can't do that. You have to have the character in its default pose before you've moved the character or moved any of the limbs when you duplicate it to create your target shapes for blend shapes. So you'll kind of have to take a step back and create your blend shapes before you've made any movements on the character. So go to a version of your file where you haven't moved his limbs around at all or moved his body at all, duplicate it, sculpt your blend shapes, and create your blend shapes. So that's the issue with that. It is not impossible to salvage the target shapes you've sculpted, but it's probably more work to get those to work than it is to just do them again. So go back to the one and do it again. And as far as posing this guy, so one thing I'm going to do is I might, hide these or maybe put them in a layer or something like that just to make this easier to work with so I can move the camera around and see what I'm doing. One thing is anything that's a blue circle you don't want to translate, you just want to rotate. So I'm going to probably zero these out. And so I got that weird deformation off the leg, and I'm guessing that some of that's gone on here too. There's translation on this. You generally don't want to. Whoa! So that's interesting. And there's scaling on the arm as well. So, and which is also unusual. And not sure what the heck is going on with his arm. So, but what I would say, I think you'll have an easier time with IK on this stuff. Yeah, this one's been moved too. Don't move these as a general rule. And on a lot of these controls, there's no keyframes. So when you pose the character, so anyways, switch the feet. If the feet are on the ground, the feet should be on AK mode almost always. So let's, with these two selected, change this to 10. Now the feet are in IK mode. And these red ones you can move. Those are IK controls. You are fine to move and actually rotate these. The blue circle ones, these guys, should only be rotated and not translated. And these guys, which are kind of these yellow ones, are sort of a special one where in this case you can move it a little bit, do some shoulder shrugging, but you don't want to move it a lot. And this yellow one has special controls on it, all the curls for the fingers. So go in the IK mode for the feet. And then the other thing is you might want to go to IK mode for the arms. You might find that easier. Let's go ahead and add these walls to this layer I've made here just to make this a little easier to see what I'm doing. Anyways, you may want to do the arms in IK. Also, try both. See what you're more comfortable with. If the hand is going to do something like rest on the table or plant his hand on his hip or those kinds of things, IK is better. If they're just kind of gesturing around, you might be pretty happy with FK, which is the mode it's in right now, where you just rotate things. And as far as the keyframing thing, so let's say you're happy with this pose. Pop open this guy right here, click all, and then hit S. But actually, make sure you kind of click on this window and then hit S, and that'll keyframe everything. And then I'll go to this, I'll go to another pose, and I'm just gonna No, that looks crazy. But let's grab his spine, for example. This rig appears to be broken somehow. Not sure what's happened here, but somehow the rig is broken, and I am guessing maybe it has something to do with when you added that. I don't know. I don't know how it broke, but it is broken right now because you should be able to rotate his spine joints and his head should move with that, and right now it's staying behind. I'm going to just turn off surfaces here so I don't accidentally select a surface. Let's see if his head moves with his body. Yeah, it does not. So rather than trying to fix this rig, I would go back to a version of the rig before it was broken. I would create my blend shapes there, make sure that's saved as a separate file, then bring that into the scene and then continue from there. But anyways, the point of the story was that, you do some kind of pose. I'm not going to really spend any time on this, but you pose the character, and then you hit all, and then click here, and then hit S, and then it'll go. It'll save all the things. So when you're putting in your first set of poses, you want to keyframe every control and every pose, and ideally you're spending enough time very carefully crafting the pose that you'll be adjusting every or nearly every control on the body, every pose anyway. So of course it will need to be keyframed, but whether or not you adjust those controls, you should still keyframe them when you're putting in your first poses.